Good morning and welcome to What the Bleep is Consciousness. This is the fourth part in What the Bleep is Spirituality webinar series. And thank you for being here today, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure to be here.
We have some fabulous stories ahead of us with my co-host Matthew today.
Hello, hello.
Did you want to introduce yourself, Matthew?
Oh, sure. I am Matthew, the Shamanic Happiness Coach. I am so glad to be here, involved with talking about consciousness today, and we'll see how this unfolds. Love it.
Okay, I think we'll just go around. We'll start with Sara and have you introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sara Im. I'm calling you from sunny Florida, Tampa Bay, Florida. And I'm an inspirational speaker and author. I'm so excited to be with you all.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to share?
If there's anything else that you do to help people, you're a speaker, you're an author.
As a speaker, I inspired people with my story to impact their life, to overcome fear, to have hope, and have courage and be resilient in their life. I'm speaking in the area of personal development and mental and emotional well-being.
Thank you very much. Monica?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Monica Ramirez, Warrior of Love. I am a transformational belief coach, and I help people to go from confusion and to start designing their life. So like that, they can start living the life they actually want. I am founder of Path of the Heart program that we go from becoming responsible, the ones that are waking up and they're learning that they can get empowered, to becoming channelers. And I am an artist. I'm an established artist. I am exhibit all around the world. At the same time, I'm a published author. I work coaching one-on-one, and I also work in groups. And my passion is to help people, and that's my mission, why I am here. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, good morning.
My name is Amanda Rumore. I am outside of Phoenix, Arizona. I am a published author, a speaker, and the CEO of the Publicity Collective, my PR firm. However, I speak a lot on traumatic brain injuries. About 3.5 years ago, I fell 40 feet off of an energy vortex in the Red Rocks of Sedona, a beautiful place, but I was left unconscious in the hospital for a month, cracked vertebrae, broken arm, didn't know how to walk, didn't even know my name. So I talk a lot about recovery and trauma and how to thrive after that. I'm also pregnant, so if you see me pop off, I'm probably going to the bathroom.
Thank you. Oh, goodness. Kimmy, good morning.
Good morning. Oh, my name is Kimmy, and my business is kimmyenergy.com. I am a 3-time published best-selling Amazon author. I am an empowerment coach for men and created a workshop called #HimToo. So, and it's based on the tagline, "Boys Don't Cry," and how we've taught men in our lives, little boys to men, to suppress everything. And then we are so surprised when it all explodes. And so through my earliest childhood memory up until about 8 years ago, how that has affected me with the men in my life, and how I made a conscious decision to not be a victim, but turn that into my passion and thrive teaching men that it's okay to have emotion. I am also a medium and a psychic and an intuitive healer. So I can do it distantly. You don't have to be with me, and I can do it hands-on as well. And Julie can speak for the distance. We've been working distantly together for some time now.
Oops. And I've worked with Christian too. So thank you. Good morning, Katrina.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Katrina Breau. I'm a neurological nutrition specialist. I'm also a 5 times best-selling author, also as Kimmy says, on Amazon. And I write specifically on mental health and brain health complications. I have lived for over 50 years with the complication of epilepsy and have lost consciousness many, many times. I also have frontal lobe division scarring and a brain tumor, and I also have had many challenges with consciousness as a child, as an adult, and also dealing with my parents that also are in the process of aging and losing consciousness as well. And I've worked in geriatrics and palliative care for 20 plus years, where I am with people as the family members are losing consciousness and methods to communicate with them, as well as when you're living with brain complications yourself, how to utilize methods to sustain and hold on to your consciousness. Because what would you put a price on your consciousness? And as I've witnessed my own and other people's consciousness become impaired, I guess I wish to present the value of consciousness and to really understand and embrace the reflection of your consciousness, whether you're a child, teen, adult, or later in life, and to really embrace the beauty of waking up each day and having that amazing ability of being conscious.
Thank you very much, Katrina. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning. So I am Nancy, and I wear many hats. I'm an assistant principal of a school, but my passion is intuitive counseling. I do what I call soul telepathy because I don't know what else to call it. I do tea leaf readings and things like that. But what I do is I have been given a gift to be able to hear what your own soul is trying to tell you. So lots of times we know what's going on. We get a sense of what's going on. We know what we need to do, but we like to put blinders on. And so when I'm able to tell you what your own soul's trying to tell you, and then throw in sort of the mystical part, is sometimes I'm given information from your soul, from your past, or from things that are going on that are directly tying to what's going on at this moment in time. So that kind of adds the extra element to it, because it's hard to ignore when I'm bringing up stuff that I shouldn't know about, but your soul is telling me. So in doing this work, as well as I'm a writer and I'm a public speaker and whatnot too, consciousness to me has become a really big topic in my mind, because I'm becoming more and more aware of so many different levels of consciousness, even within myself. And it's making me become so much more aware of all the different levels of consciousness all around me, including my 3-year-old granddaughter and the children I work with, or things like that. And so it's really making me kind of become more and more aware and probably have more questions than answers. So I'm actually really excited to hear what everyone else has to say, because it's a learning journey for me in terms of different levels of consciousness that we carry all the time. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Hi, Christian. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is having a great and blessed day. My name is Christian Fernando Gonzalez-Reyes. I have that Mexican name, super long, but I am the owner and founder of CH Reiki Healing. I take a shamanic approach to energy work. I helped myself heal from a devastating rock bottom, drug addiction, and now I help others find the light in their hour of darkness. So I pretty much will get in touch with what the root cause of your self-sabotage is, and I help you process it and release it. I also cleanse negative energy. I do remote distance healing as well. I work with sound bowls, aromas, anything that's natural and from the earth. Ever since I started my path, I got introduced to tarot, and that's another tool of mine that I use. Tarot is a big part of my life. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we can all contribute to this podcast. And Julie and Matt, thanks for inviting us here. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Christian. Matthew, you have something to say? Go for it.
I was just unmuting. No, it's beautiful. I was unmuting so that I could say, Julie, introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm an author. I'm a healer. I'm a sound healer. I'm a Reiki master teacher, medical intuitive, and a medium. And so Reiki's really brought me to the medical intuitive stuff, which now I trace from body emotions to traumas and can trace those back in somebody's life to help them heal from them. So that's what I do. And I do a podcast too. And I do this. So I'm grateful that everyone's here and about to share their stories. So Matthew, did you want to share a story about consciousness? Or
Sure, I'll start. I first wanted to address our audience as well. We are on this beautiful journey. We're on another episode of What the Bleep is Spirituality. Every single time, it just goes deeper and deeper. And Julie and I have no idea how this is going to unfold, right? And as I'm hearing everybody's panelists, everybody has a choice to show up to this discussion. And as I just heard those introductions and whatnot, I'm like, oh, well, thank you, Spirit. There is no such thing as coincidence. We are all in synchronicity. We are called and to show up exactly where we are. And so for that, I will say, audience, make yourself comfortable, have fun. And also panelists, we're human. So, we're going to follow our body wisdom. We might take a little bit of a break. You might see somebody step away, whatever it might be. In addition, we have a lot of the panelists going, and we're kind of all over the world broadcasting right now. So we're having a little bit of that high vibrational influence on the broadcast. So what I'm going to ask is for our panelists to mute and unmute yourselves as you're going to talk. I had you guys muted for a second. I'm going to unmute everybody, and you can go ahead and remute yourself so you're in control. Oh, okay. Looks like Nancy, you already got this. Okay. Let's see. Did I get you? There we go. Okay, beautiful. So consciousness. I love this. So as a shamanic happiness coach, I teach a lot of meditation and what the more expansive understanding of meditation is. And for, I guess, the audience, what I like to tell people right away when we're trying to understand our consciousness and just getting into the body is that the idea of meditation, we don't actually sit down to go and meditate. We focus our awareness. And so we meditate 24/7. It's just that those times that we take to focus our awareness are when we're engaging in our biology and our spirituality and the I am that we are. And so as we do that, there's so many different techniques or things that bring us home. And how do we navigate that? That to me is what consciousness is, as well as collective and a whole bunch of other things. From my perspective, of course, all of my relations, including you guys, this pad of paper that I'll be taking notes on just in case we need to. All of these things to me have some type of consciousness. And in my understanding of things, I very much communicate with everything around me to the best of my ability. And it's kind of interesting. Maybe some of us have this experience where we have a harder time being in our body or outside of our body or things like that. And so I often have to do that too. It's oh, wait, I am a self. I am myself. And so my idea of consciousness is very cerebral, but also it's very everywhere. And then inside the body, and just beautiful. So I love being able to show up and just bounce all of this beautiful wisdom off everybody and to collectively come to an expanded understanding. of what this is. I feel like we're taking all of our ideas, we're putting them in this giant mixing bowl, mixing it, and we're baking these beautiful cookies, just like we did last time and the night before, or the other time. So I'm so excited. Yeah, that's what I would say about consciousness. So I'll just pass it on, I guess. We'll just keep going in order. Sarah.
Thank you, Matthew. That was very nice. For me, I come to the definition of consciousness through my own experience. And I believe that each of us have our own experience. And for me, I go back to my past experience that was dramatic. I didn't get to share that I am a survivor of the mass genocide in Cambodia when 2 million people was killed. But during that traumatic time, I realized I have the strong love that guide me, and I have a strong hope and faith that I believe that it's going to get better. I don't know how. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I believe that something better is going to happen. I will survive. I will go find my family. And that's, that give me a sense of hope that I don't need to give up hope. I have a belief. I sense everything around me. When I was extremely sick, I almost died many times. It's that strong hope and love that sit in my heart. It guides me. So that's my definition of consciousness. It's something that guides us to move on with our life. So
Yeah, I love that. That's just beautiful. Right away, I hear you talking about belief and hope as a manifestation of consciousness. I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Monica, tell us a little bit about consciousness.
Well, for me, it is consciousness. It is a different states of mind where we have different understandings. When we are, I I believe in my mission this time. I decided, or I signed up for so many learnings and teachings. I have lived, well, basically through hell by choice. I am being a better woman. I got loop. I about 10 years ago, no, 14 years ago, I was diagnosed with lupus, RA, fibromyalgia, and then I ended with epilepsy and so forth. And when I ended there, I was needing to actually make a drastic change because my depression and everything was going suicidal, and I was needing to do that change to heal myself from a family of healers and coaches. So that has been always in my family. I had a school metaphysics when I was 25. That was 20 years ago. I'm not going to say how many. But it's always been there, but it was easier to actually not put attention to your path because you want to fit in. You want to so that's a state of conscious. When you're living in fear, you're living in guilt and shame and so forth. That's a state of conscious too. But you actually wanted to heal yourself. I learned that I was needing to change my state of conscience and getting out of the fear, shame, and blame and so forth. And I was needing to learn to forgive at the same time my perpetrators or what the situation that I was living and stop being the victim. So like that, actually, I can heal myself, and I did. I don't have any more those sickness that I had 14 years ago. That not only one doctor diagnostic, and it is for many people, I came to understand that not many people will understand that how you can heal yourself for sickness that the medical industry actually say you're never going to do that. But if we change our state of conscience and we get out of our victimhood and start empowering ourselves, we can heal ourselves and our lives can really change. Now I work with people helping them exactly to change that state of consciousness and getting out of the fear, shame, blame, or feeling powerless. So like that actually can transform their lives, because I did. If I did, I believe anyone can do that. And that's where I am now. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So this evolution of consciousness, of transformation through knowing the self. Interesting. I love this. I love it. I love it. Amanda.
Hello again. So my story on consciousness, I mentioned my accident. So about 3.5 years ago, I was in Sedona with my husband and my daughter, who at that point was 4 years old. Did a hike that we had done before. I climbed up an energy vortex because that was, the magical place in Sedona to access the third dimension. And I felt so strongly. I remember going up, striking some cool yoga poses for my daughter. My husband took photos. And on the way down, the climb down, I lost my footing and I don't remember anything for about 2 weeks. I was left bloody and broken on the bottom. My husband was retired military, so he knew how to triage me, and he fought with 911. They were not going to send a helicopter. He said, "You got to." So they finally did. I was in the hospital, the first hospital for 2 weeks. Then they transferred me to another hospital for another 2 weeks. But that first hospital, I have no memories. But I've been told that I would talk to both of my grandmothers, who I would say saved my life. And the science behind it, they did. I would tell people, I didn't even know my name, but I would tell everybody who listened that they wrapped their bodies around me on that fall. I didn't move for a few days. I had no mobility, but then my husband played my favorite Stevie Nicks. I love Stevie Nicks since I was a baby, I think. But that's when I moved my toes. And so at that point, doctors were like, okay, she is able to move to some degree. I have videos of the nurses teaching me how to walk. I look like I just stepped out of an asylum because I didn't know what year it was, the color of my hair, like anything. So, but my first conscious memory was me dreaming of my two grandmothers that I, constantly talked about. And from there, I started this very slow journey of healing. But I was 38 at the time, and I grew up very Catholic. I went to Catholic school my entire life, always loved and knew God, but spirituality was never a conversation that the church that I knew at that point really welcomed. So me just at that point, I fell 40 feet to see what spirituality was. And I was unconscious so I could see what was right in front of my face. At that point, I still had a brain injury. Half the days I thought I was 15 living in Illinois with my parents and my siblings. The other moment, I knew that I was a mom and a wife in Arizona. But I think at that point, my consciousness, I really was drawn to like my inner self. Like I knew what I needed without anybody telling me. I knew what I needed. I knew what I had at that point, what I wasn't doing right in my life. Like at that point it changed. Like there was no going back. I was somehow a better person. And my transformation, my recovery has been really incredible. When I left the hospital, I remember asking, like, when can I drive? They're like, well, let's talk about it in a year. I drove by Halloween. Within 2 months, I was driving. And I asked also, when can I work? They're like, let's talk about it in a year. I was working for Tony Robbins' mastermind doing content management less than a year later. And then, can I ever have kids? Let's see how your recovery is. I'm pregnant now. So, and I think it is just tapping into your consciousness and just trusting your body, trusting your instincts has been so critical, has been so beautiful. And so that's my story.
Whoa, that's incredible. It's like this harnessing or utilizing, wielding choice, and waking up is like this message I'm hearing of choice and things to take on. I love it. It's beautiful. Oh,
Thank you. It's really incredible. And I really wanted to become an author or be a coach, but ultimately, like, what I'm best at is PR. So, I mean, I ended up starting a PR firm. So, not aligned with my original goals, but just choice and trusting yourself and your instincts and really paying attention to like the spirituality around you, accessing that has been life-changing for me.
love it. Oh, I love it. This is good. This is good. Everybody's in the right place. Love it. Kimmy, let's hear about consciousness from you. Oh, you're muted. Can you unmute? Is it letting you? Let's see if I can unmute you. I cannot unmute you. Bottom of the screen, maybe? We'll see. There we go. Shows you're unmuted. Oh, there you go. Oh,
Okay, sorry about that.
you're good.
Must be this rural technology in small town Alberta. Like Amanda, I was raised Catholic. I was raised Ukrainian Catholic. So no intuition. You don't ask questions. You don't belong to your parents, and you follow the priest, and he knows everything. So if you had a question, whew, that's almost like being Satan. Like, why would you question anything? Just follow this. And so as a little girl, my first memory and most of my childhood is traumatic. It's either my dad beating my mom or beating us. And so I was like, if God put us here, why would God take us through this stuff? Why would a little person have to be abused in every imaginable way? What would be the use for putting this child on earth? This is stupid. Like, wow, this is my life. This is what I get to have. So I had conditioned myself to believe that if I was taking all of this on, all of this abuse and trauma, not knowing where some of my meals were coming from, sharing a bag of chips with my brothers over candlelight because mom had no money for power or heat after they divorced. At least no other kid was going through it because this was my plot in life. This is what God had picked for me. And of course, you have no value, no self-worth, no self-love. You don't know how to love because the people that are around you to love and protect you have not done their job, to say the least. So it's a very lost world. My dad, when I was very young, told me he would be proud of me if I didn't get pregnant in high school and that if I actually graduated. So my standards were not high for me. Okay. So there was no need to try, no need to challenge anything because I was going to be nothing. But I kept having these questions all the time. And I was like, how can a priest talk about marriage and love and tell a wife to do this and that when they're not allowed to have a wife or have a sexual relationship or have children? But we're supposed to follow this. And of course, being Ukrainian Catholic, I would get backhanded quite a bit in church when I would ask or speak up. And I thought I was the Satan because why am I asking this stuff? Where are these questions coming from? But I had to get them out. I had to ask them. And so I would see things in my mind and I thought everybody seen them. And I would know that people that were in heaven were okay. And I would have a little conversation in my mind and I would like, oh, that's nice. They're good. That's good. And I would speak up and say something and people would look at me and think, oh yeah, you're the devil child. Yeah, you grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. You're poor, so things aren't working really well for you upstairs. And I carried on with my life that way. Until one day after my second divorce, I sat up and I thought, why did I go through this? Is that my only purpose in life? That's it. I can question as much as I want, but that's it. This is as good as it's going to get, right? That's it. And I started asking more and more questions, and consciousness came. I all of a sudden was in front of mentors that would take me to the next level of what I was thinking, what I was feeling, what I was asking. And through that, I found many mentors along the way to develop my medium and psychic abilities. And it came to myself that through all of this, I could help the people that are in the situations of suppressing let go of that from the moment of suppression and deal with that. And because they didn't even know what they were doing and why they were doing it. And so with the hymn to Boys Don't Cry and talking to men about emotion, and I live in redneck oil field, Alberta. So I started my journey on coaching men and asking them the questions because they have the answers inside. They've never been asked the question. They don't know how to ask a question. And it is just mind-blowing sitting in a workshop in the table with men when their light bulb moment goes on that they weren't cultivated this way, that they have a choice to change things. The moment you start thinking there's more purpose, there's more to taste, there's more to live, and those questions come, that's your consciousness to me kicking in and your awareness. And baby, you run with that because life is not wash, rinse, and repeat every day for the rest of your life. We are not born to work to pay bills and start again the next day. We are born to live. There's a difference between being alive and living and having zest in your life and joy in your life. It doesn't mean you have everything and you're a millionaire, but what you do have is freaking amazing. And that's my role on consciousness. And there's so many levels of consciousness. Just when you think you got it, no, you get another lesson that turns into a blessing that gives you a higher state of consciousness. You're more evolved. And when you step into that, your potency and your power, you're changing the world because you're breaking molds and chains around people's hearts and soul all the time. And the universe responds and says, "Oh, baby, I like this. I like what she's given us." And so we create more that way. That's how I do my work. And that's consciousness to me. It is following your intuition because I didn't know I had an intuition. I didn't know what red flags were because I was supposed to be stupid my whole life. So I never followed red flags. I wouldn't be where I am today by not following, having the life I have. But now that is my compass. That's my focus. And that's what I teach these men. And then they come back and said, "Can you teach our wives this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can." So we developed #HerToo and emotional awareness, and you matter.
Thank you, Kimmy. That's powerful. Thank you. Katrina, would you like to share your story now? We need you. There you go.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I would love to. So for myself, as a young child, I encountered extreme layers of adverse childhood traumas and experiences that sort of weaved through my memory as a young kid. And by the time I was a preteen, both my mother and father were married and divorced multiple times each, with all levels of traumas happening and creating real mental health scars that chipped away at the foundation of my upbringing. And along that process, adding to these mental health scars, I was also a child living with epilepsy as well as a severe case of dyslexia, which sort of stripped away my self-confidence and my ability to believe in my brain's ability to actually learn and absorb any material. And along with that struggle, I was also a person that was removed by police protection and put into the foster care system, and continuously uprooted and uprooted and uprooted, where you never really gained a foundational strength to really allow yourself to say, this is where I want it to be. And many times that self-doubt and real swirling the drain of depression because of the position I had been placed in life really stripped away the motivation for me. And eventually, in my last 2 years of high school, I then learned how to read and rose from a grade 3 level education to the cognitive ability to not only have a mental understanding that I could press reset as a teen, and also to absorb the academic ability and understand that I was the person in charge of the cognitive ability of my brain, not everyone else saying what I can't and I can't and I can't do. And I really embraced that, and went to the type A personality to accomplish all kinds of things, and then sort of joined what I believed was the right thing for us adults to do, which was embrace society's rush of demand and the everyday rush of our system. And within this extreme rush, the stresses I had working in the geriatric and palliative environment, I also, during the COVID times especially, had witnessed chipping away of brain health for seniors that I was caring for. And this is really where I wanted to be, with all levels of people that were really struggling in brain health areas. But struggling at what cost? The long hours and the demands that I had placed on, being there for the calling that I had in that position, put all my actual personal and self-care needs on the back burner, where I'd be working 16, 18-hour days, and don't worry about myself, I'll deal with me later. And all of this rush of meeting the demands that I believed I was meant to meet caused me to have severe grand mal seizures, where I went cyanotic, I stopped breathing, I lost my ability to breathe, my cognition was gone, and almost my life due to long periods of time without any oxygen to my brain. And I paid the ultimate price. But not only surviving the grand mal seizures that I had, I realized that I had to press a reset. And when you are on that sort of line of crossing between life and death, you really realize the value of your life and the value of having cognition. And when that is stripped away for a period of time and you come back for a reason. And now in my 50s, I look back at the mental health and brain health of my journey, of riding not only the impacts of the epilepsy journey and how stress itself, the absorption of society's stress, would steal away my cognitive ability, and how to step forward and say, you know what, I'm going to take that back, and I have the ability to be in control of my stress level. And I really went down the focus of understanding the power of our grocery carts and every single nutrient of food we put in and how it crosses into the blood-brain barrier to allow us the ability to choose specific unique nutrients to really aid your cognitive ability and transitional journey. And along this direction, I also saw the strength and value of not only my own cognitive ability, but also the realization of getting together and coming to link towards my father in his mid 80s, and noticing his cognitive failures and how the window of our opportunity of communicating has a delicate timeline that was beginning to close. And as his memories began to fail, I appreciated the value of each conversation that we could share and transfer precious descriptive memories and experiences down the generational family tree. And there was no price that the value of these special moments nor could I let society's demands and the traps of the daily rush that we step into steal these opportunities from me or my family. And these special times are aiding me to not only forgive and rebuild our family's broken foundation, but with strong new healing powers of love. And cognition can be impacted at any time. And are we ready to embrace the value of your own cognition every day you get up, and understanding what you can do to really bring yourself into focus and protect that delicate uh, ability that we all have, that so many take for granted until it is snuffed away. And that's why I love my cognition.
I love it. Holy moly. I just, like, my mind just wants to say cognition, or like the moment, this moment, kind of a thing, like coming to this moment and really understanding how you're showing up. I love yeah, so much wisdom. Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much, Katrina. Wow.
And we all have the ability to touch a child, an adult who's broken, or a senior that is all emotionally swirling the drains of depressions and dealing with the loss of their mental health and cognitive ability. And each of us can touch someone we love out there to bring that position together so they're not falling through the system's cracks, whether that be school or the hospital's cracks. We have the ability as community to lift each other up. And let's do that.
I love it. Oh man, this is such a good conversation. This is gonna get good. Okay, Nancy, what is consciousness to you? Oh my.
Wow. Listening to all these stories, I'm just so inspired, and I keep, listening, and as a result, didn't really prepare what I was going to say. And so, but it's funny because when you said about showing up at the end, something about consciousness that I've trying to figure out. I'm never going to say that I've got it figured out, because the more I know, the more I don't know. But one thing on my journey that I have realized is that our consciousness is so much bigger and so much more than what our skin suit has given us in terms of our experiences. We all come at this with different experiences, traumatic events, life-changing events, all these different things that we all have that are different. But what it's done is created us a connection to that deeper level of consciousness. And those deeper levels of consciousness kind of transcend whatever belief system, growing up Catholic or in various levels. And so as I'm hearing all these stories, I'm like, there's so many things coming to my mind. But it's interesting because when you just said showing up, I had an experience about 3 years ago where I was really reflecting on my gifts that I've been given, how I've been using them. And I was kind of like, what's next? Like what, and I was feeling kind of disconnected in some ways from my own higher self, right? Like I was doing the work and feeling inspired, so I went for a hike, and I'm hiking, and I was in Ontario at the time, which is not where I live, but I was in Ontario. I was on a hike, and I was kind of almost angry at my guides, going like, what's next? Like, what am I supposed to do now? What's next? I've done this step. Like, what's next? And I just kept hearing shh. And I was like, okay, just chill out, right? So I got up to the top of this hike. It wasn't massive, just a little hike. And there was a little river with a little waterfall. And I kind of found myself a little log to sit on. And I was just taking in the beauty of the space and just kind of immersing myself in this space and just letting myself just kind of clear. You talked about meditation, Matthew, being sort of anywhere and being that consciousness. And so I wasn't consciously meditating, but I realized that that's what I was doing. And I was noticing the people around me. They were kind of coming and going, and there was a photographer, and there was a family, and there was like just different people coming and going. And I remember noticing a man just a little further away. And the only reason why I noticed him is that he looked like he might be Indigenous. And I was trying to think of, I know the indigenous groups in my area, and I was trying to just, random ramblings. I was trying to think of what are the indigenous groups here, and that's the only notice that I took of him. And then at some point he was gone. And I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden I hear, it was a little while later, I hear, "Hey," and I look up, and across the bank, like across the embankment, was that man. And he said, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hi," and he's like, "Thanks for showing up." And then he turned around and he walked away. And I was like, "Yeah, you too." Like I didn't know, and I thought, what an odd thing to say, and then I started sitting there and going, "Thanks for showing up. Thanks for," and all of a sudden I started thanking myself for showing up. And I was like, "Thanks, Nancy, for showing up and leaving an abusive marriage. Thanks, Nancy, for showing up when your kid came out as trans. Thanks, Nancy, for showing up when your daughter got pregnant at 17. Thanks, Nancy, for showing up. And thanks, Nancy, for showing up to your gifts. And thanks, Nancy, for showing up to helping others. And thanks, Nancy, for," and I started thanking myself for all the times that I've showed up. And then I started realizing that it's not just about the big events that we show up, that it's the daily, showing up to work. Katrina talked about that busyness of life and trying to fulfill this productivity, and we show up to that. And then thanks to showing up to taking rest and doing what we're called to do in terms of nurturing ourselves. And it's that idea of constantly showing up. And the more that I started thinking about that showing up, I realized that part of what I'm called to do is help others to show up, because we get clouded by all the stuff, all the stuff, right? We get clouded and it's hard to show up consciously, right? We're constantly showing up, but sometimes it's like a tumbleweed. We're running. And so consciously showing up in that moment as you're taking a sip of your tea, or as you're speaking to a child, or as you're shopping for groceries, and just being conscious about showing up. And then I found that the more I was aware of that sort of showing up, the more the consciousness started to expand and, to be honest, create sort of a disconcerting sense of, without sounding really strange, being almost two people. There's this skin suit version of me that's here now talking to you. And then there's this timeless soul level version of me that is constantly connected to collective consciousness, that's constantly connected to all of you, that guided me to get in touch and be a part of this webinar and hearing your stories. And so when we are connected in the skin suit level of consciousness and that greater soul level consciousness, collective consciousness, source level consciousness, it's amazing sort of the magic that exists even in those ordinary moments that we show up to. So that's my little rambling. Based on what I heard all of you say, that's kind of what I internalized. I mean, I'm trying to think, there's a million other things I could share in terms of my story, but honestly, I think in listening to all of you, what I'm hearing is showing up. Whatever you're given, whatever your life journey was, whatever life journey continues to be, from the ordinary mundane to the big events, it's about showing up. And I am so happy that I was invited to show up here today with all of you. So thank you very much.
That's so good. I thank you, Nancy. That's amazing. One of the wisdoms that I started sharing when I began to teach meditation, I love teaching meditation, of course, awareness. When I teach awareness to people who have the I would say the shadow version, or the shadow understanding of what awareness is, and that would be the Western view of meditation, and that it's difficult and all these other things, and that it's struggle and all these things. And I always say, come when called. You feel those butterflies, that means you're supposed to be there. And I love how, as you were just starting to talk, the first sentence you gave us, immediately my mind was all boom, and I knew, I don't know why, we were on the same page, we were collective. I wrote down personal awareness. The next one, this is not even before you finished, right? This first sentence you said, personal awareness, outer awareness, collective awareness. And then boom, that's exactly what you're referring to. I love it. This is so beautiful. Love it. Oh my goodness, we're going so deep. Okay, Christian. I'm so excited.
Hey guys. So that's a very interesting question, because by definition, consciousness is simply awareness. And in my personal experience on my journey, I have I've always had a quest to obtain wisdom. Wisdom has always been so knowledge is gained, and then you process that knowledge and you turn it into wisdom through application. Um, and we all have amazing stories here. We've all struggled. And one of the things that I've come to understand, consciousness being, is unconditional love broadcasted in a multifaceted dimension, meaning that we exist on 3 different planes that we're aware of: mind, body, and spirit. And we can choose to focus our awareness or consciousness on a certain area of our body, and through our thought process affect that region of our body for healing, and for different other purposes that you can use your thoughts. But you can also change your consciousness, your awareness, to your spiritual body and your mind. And it's when you're able to harmonize all that in all 3 that you really transcend. In my personal experience, I always knew as a kid that there was something, but I just didn't know what it was, because my mom didn't like to talk about it. My mom was also Catholic, and I always had a lot of questions that nobody wanted to answer. Not that they couldn't, they just didn't want to. I remember the most important question I ever asked was at a Catholic event, and I decided to ask, hey, if Jesus was such a great example of being this guy and being this person and this person, how come he wasn't a good example as to how to be a good husband? Was this guy ever married? There you go. Out you go. That was one question they'd never wanted to answer. So that got me to think, okay, now I'm going to start digging a little bit further. Where does this book come from, right? So I got myself, and that's what got me down the rabbit hole, is asking questions and finding stuff out. But it wasn't until I started experimenting with altering my consciousness that I discovered what consciousness to me really is. And that happened when I was in my mid-30s, and I decided to take some LSD and some mushrooms together, and I put intent on them to transcend, to leave. And that's when I had an incredible moment with spirit. I left my body, and I was in the presence of something so loving that every time I thought about it, it just brought tears to my eyes. It's this love that I cannot, in this earthly realm, find the words to express. And that's when I realized that I had a gift and a purpose. The next experience was with the sacred secretion. If you're not aware of the sacred secretion is when you align your mind, body, and spirit to your moon cycle, right? So we're all born on a sun sign. We all are Leos, Capricorns, whatever your sign is. That moon every 28 days comes into your sign. And 3 days before that, if you meditate, keep a clear mind, have pure intent, you can go ahead and do something with a special fluid that is extracted and created in your pineal gland. And 3 days after that period, it releases. And if you've never done that, I highly recommend you look into the secret secretion, because that was one of the moments where I felt connected to everything and everyone. I had never felt this oneness before in my life. I always felt like I was the black sheep. I always felt like I didn't belong. And in that moment, I knew exactly why. So consciousness really took on a form when I had to heal myself. When we're in those places where we are devastated, broken, that is when you truly find out who you are, because it's not about the situation. The situation is what we label it as humans. Humans label it being good or bad. The universe just gave you a situation, and coming to Earth is about how you deal with that situation for your soul's evolution. my experience with consciousness is about where do you choose to place it? Because several famous metaphysical people, such as Greg Braden, George Plimpton, my favorite, Dr. Joe Dispenza, all say that if you're stuck in the past, your consciousness, your awareness is in the past, you're stuck in depression. You're worried about all these good times that I had. Oh, I remember being skinny, or I remember having this, and then I lost it, and you just stay there. That's depression. When you're stuck in the future and worried about things that haven't happened yet, that's what causes anxiety. And one of the things that I try to remain in is happiness, and that is living in the present moment. That's doing what I can right now. What can I do right now that will get me closer to my goal? So for me, consciousness is really just being mindful. It's about being mindful because life is about choices. It's everything you do has an adverse or different kind of reaction. There's always duality. There's always two roads. You can go down the dark road or you can go down the light road. So every choice that you make impacts your awareness. It brings people into your life. And when you raise your vibration and start vibrating at a high level, those lower vibrational people magically disappear. It's like they were never there. You can try calling them, you can go knock on their door, and all of a sudden they're not there. Like, what happened? I was just dealing with this person 2 days ago. I decided to make this change. And for me, that change was loving and respecting myself because that's something I never had. And I didn't realize that till I was 23. And it wasn't until I looked in the mirror and learned to love myself, to respect myself, to cherish myself, that I started vibrating at a high level that anybody that didn't have that love for me was no longer there. So after that sacred secretion, where I did that was in the high desert of Anza, California. It's pristine high desert. It's real close to Temecula, so it's beautiful, beautiful desert. And being alone, spending some time in the desert meditating. I did this for a full month, just meditating before my sacred secretion every day. Try to raise my vibration. I really learned how connected we all truly are, because there's one thing besides our stories that we all have in common. And it doesn't matter if you're watching or you're doing something else right now, if you're not even in this broadcast right now. As humans, the one thing we all share is this present moment. That is something that took my mind to wrap around. Like, it doesn't matter what time it is where you're at in the world, we're still in this moment together. And that is something that's always just really got me to understand so much about myself. Like, I don't have to worry about things as much, because if I can't do something right here, right now to change that, there's no point for me to lose myself in worry, fear, anxiety. There's nothing I can do about it. All I can do is focus on what I got right now. So that's where my path on consciousness is about being mindful of the choices that you make. It's about being in tune to everything around you. It also is about that lucid dreaming state, when you're able to awaken in a dream and realize that you can go out of this world, that you could see things, that you can literally remote view something in that altered state of consciousness, awareness. And that is something that's always intrigued me. Like, how am I able to see somebody coming down this path before they even come down the path? How do I know that this dog is about to pop out of this bush if I take 3 more steps? You know, that's something that's always intrigued me. The other thing that's always intrigued me is when I do tarot readings, what are the chances of those 78 cards aligning perfectly to your story for me to get the exact message that you need to hear? That's just, there's no such thing as coincidence. And I'm just really floored to be able to share this moment with all you. Consciousness to me is living in pure love while harmonizing that to our mind, body, and spirit.
Well, thank you everybody for this moment. Now we're done. I love it.
It's over.
It's over. We're done. No, it's beautiful. I love Christian. You and I could. We've done a lot of the same research. I love it. We could go back and forth on all of this. It's so beautiful, and it's very helpful when we understand. Like, yes, we're in that conscious choice of the moment, and we understand that we are actually a quantum being. When we talk about like quantum particles, we're understanding all these different things. Well, if we bring it back, like a long time ago, when we discovered that if you just try to measure something, you alter it. When you try to witness it, you alter it, or you solidify it, so to speak, and then you get to witness what it is in the solidity. And this is like a slightly newer conversation, last 20 years or so, but it's now kind of trickling down into the mainstream, and like understanding the orbit of electrons. The model that we used to use around an atom is very false. That most of us were taught, and it's actually as we go to measure, like the electron exists in all of those places all at once, because it's a quantum particle, just like we're quantum beings. And it's only the time that we take to measure it that we actually get to see where it was. Yet, if we project our awareness onto it, we actually can influence where it's being measured. And so that's an interesting thing that we see quantum entanglement, right? And so, yeah, now we're getting to physics and all these other fun stuff. But it's interesting how we're just learning how to discover the physical world through physics and other things of this nature, mathematics, yet we've always lived with it. And a lot of us have had this this wisdom within us, and we're kind of reawakening to it, right? Some of us, it's much more common, or it's a fluent language that we already speak, so to speak, in that way. I love. We wrote down so many different things, and I wanted to. I wanted to bring into some of the context and layers that we have, because this is such a huge conversation, and as we kind of approach this, maybe we can delineate it into understanding consciousness from its various forms. And so we talked about consciousness as choosing the moment. We talked about consciousness as focusing on something. We talked about consciousness as an embodiment of a feeling. We talked about consciousness as the ability for the body to be aware, and then thus the mind and things. And so I kind of wanted to do, let's do a round, going around, and I want to give one word of what consciousness is to you. Okay, let's do that. Just one word. And I'm not trying to dumb this down. I just kind of want to see what everybody thinks of that. And then the audience as well, what right now is coming up in your cognition of what consciousness is in one word. Okay, Sarah, we'll start with you. Oh, sorry, Julie, go ahead. Sorry, I saw Julie going. Go ahead.
Multiple dimensions.
Okay, Sarah, yeah.
Value. What you value most, that will show up.
Beautiful. Monica.
State of mind.
Okay, beautiful. Amanda.
Inner self.
Beautiful. Okay, yeah, Kimmy.
Knowing.
Okay, Katrina.
Opportunity.
Okay.
It's too many words in my head. Integrated.
Okay. Christian. Yeah. Oh, you're muted. You're good.
I'm going to stick with awareness. It's just being aware, knowing. All these words totally integrated, but I'm going to go with just pure awareness. It's
beautiful.
Opening your eyes to seeing.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I love that. For me, immediately what came through, and this is kind of what prompted me to ask this question, to see how similar or whatnot we are. And my answer came in. I like this answer, but it really was solidified when I heard you, Christian, and that consciousness is love. And I say that now, and I know that we've kind of had these different stories going. And one of the things that I loved to study was altruism. Why does it exist? What's going on with altruism, right? Why do we have this conversation around the purity of doing, so to speak, with contribution and no lack or things that you want in return? And obviously, there's this whole thing around Ayn Rand and all these other things about that altruism doesn't exist. Well, when we study children, we discover that innately children are loving, and they are wired to be connecting and to be loving and to be supportive and all these different things. And you're going, I wonder why that is. Interesting. And then it's interesting as we develop into connection. Yes, Laura loves the consciousness is connection too. As a kid, we walk in with this interesting understanding of what consciousness is, that we're exploring, and then we continue on and we get overlaid with certain stories or whatever it is, the understanding of what's being perceived. And then we go into the world, and all of a sudden we take on these life assignments and we move around, and then we're stuck with understanding, what do I do with what's in front of me? So an interesting tool that I was taught by a beautiful brother, his name is Aj, and he said, when you have something that's coming at you that's really difficult or whatnot, we're going to take it internal, and the ego is going to probably be talking or communicating with it most, right, in the beginning of it, until we can integrate this in, because we have ego, and the ego tells us to talk or do things and all these things. So he said, first you're going to have this encounter with the ego. And generally that's going to cause some type of suffering, because the ego wants to know itself, and it's exploring, and it's just trying to get attention. And so as this goes through, we end up eventually feeling emotions, and then it goes deeper and deeper. And so the message that he said is, when you experience something, because we are aware beings of love, maybe you can say, how do I elevate this within my consciousness? How do I take this and elevate it within my consciousness, right? And so we might look at ourselves in anger. We might look at ourselves in interacting with another person. And so we talked a little bit about things, but I wanted to go around and ask, how did you elevate your consciousness when you needed to? What was that to you? And let's just go, we'll just kind of go around again to Sara, and we'll just continue. Yeah. So how did you elevate consciousness when you needed to?
For me, it's the driving force behind everything that I do is my core value. My core value is love, hope, faith, family, God. So when we have defined our own core value, you know where to start, what to do. I am a very faithful Christian. So my value, to elevate my consciousness, I go to God. I pray. I ask God and ask for guidance, ask for direction, and I submit to God. What would you guide me? Where you guide me? So when I do that, I feel at peace. Whatever that God gave it to me, I'm aware of it, or I have a dream about it. That make me feel peaceful. So my short answer for you.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. You're talking to this love, you're talking to God, and you're asking them, in essence, because it's that pure form, what is mine to do in this way? So it's interesting how you're having this conversation with love. You're asking, what do I do? I love that. Huh.
Yeah, yes. When I was captive in the communist Khmer Rouge regime, the powerful force that drive me through the whole 4 years in captivity was love. Matthew, you bring it right on. I was about to say love was one word, but I leave it for you to say it. The powerful force that drove me in that time was love, because I love my family, and at that time I was desperately separated from them because of the regime we call the captivity, and the love for my family drive me, sustain me through this hard time.
I love that. I love that. Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, Monica. Yeah.
Every time I want to elevate my conscience, what I do is I have to observe where I am. I became, and that's what I teach, how to become the observer. I cannot elevate, in my case, I cannot elevate my conscience if I don't, I know where I am in that moment. And basically, what is a state of conscience? It is my emotions in that moment, where it is. So I have to observe myself and ask and start asking me questions if I want to shift from the state of conscience where I am. If I am in anger, if I am in pain, if I am confused, or or feeling sad, or whatever state I am, then I start asking the questions why I am there. What do I have to work? What is presenting to myself in that moment that I have to actually become aware so I can shift it? And that's how I tend to elevate my conscience. I have to ask myself what it took me there in that to start, and it was a feeling of lack of something, lack of love, lack of or feeling love or being accepted. It's like why I'm looking for to being accepted, why I'm looking for being approval, or why I'm looking, and that's when I start shifting. And to I believe every single act of the human being that we have, it is about love, but it is different kinds of grade of love, and it comes with a lot of distortions. Everybody's gonna be judging depending on their experience on life. So, but it doesn't mean is a lack of love. Even if they're being so horrible or so harsh, it doesn't matter the situation it is. It's just a distortion of love. So, and if we observe, well, how I see it, if we observe why is I'm having that experience and whatever it is, I can shift it because I have learned we are in power completely, so we can shift our reality and obviously, and our reality is completely linked to our state of conscience. That if we want to be illuminated or ascended, so forth, we have to actually go through those emotions because everything is a learning process, and we observed that it doesn't matter what situation it was the horrible experience or the beautiful experience. It was so we learn from that and we continue advancing. Life is a game in a way we observe it, and there is a beautiful adventure if we want to observe it. Wherever we put our attention is what is going to grow. So where we want to put our attention, in the lack or in the abundance of whatever situation we are, and having compassion for others, it is just it's an act of love, and that will change our conscience in that moment. And this is my experience in life, and this is what I teach.
Mm. Mm. I can tell as everybody's sharing, there's not enough mics in the world for all of our mic drops that we're doing. This is just beautiful. As I hear you talking and bringing this knowledge in, I'm digesting this, and hopefully this is a bit of wisdom that's coming through. And it's almost, we can kind of, I don't want to bring this back to physics, but there technically is no such thing as darkness. It's just an absence of light. And so what I hear you saying is that there's no such thing as evil. It's just a modification of love, or an unwitnessing of love, right? And we're not focusing on it. We're not illuminating that. And so we're in a space where there is a lack of light, not full of darkness.
But at the same time, part of the program is to be afraid of the darkness. And if we go to a womb, where is the baby? Where we all born? In that womb, there is a darkness that it brings life. Where is a seed actually put in the dirt? It has to go into the darkness. We have to actually learn to love even our own ego and become friends with it, so we can shift. If we want to focus like, oh, love and light, then we're not doing the work. We have to actually observe our shadow. And why is that happening, that shadow, so we can shift it?
Yeah. What can be revealed can be healed. What can be or elevated and is kind of what's coming through. And I hear that in and I think that's where I'm going with that. There is no darkness in a way. And I love that you brought in the shadow, because thank you for expounding upon that. When I say there is no darkness, I mean, the shadow is not a dark entity or things like that in my perspective, in my conscious reality. It's to learn how to become friends with the shadow, like you were saying, and work with that. I like to say that the shadow is here to show you the degree in which you're separated from love in the moment. And so that's, becoming friends with that is understanding what you're here to do. I love this. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And even as you say that, I almost say that, like, we're born perhaps in physical darkness. And that to me is like this perceptual reality, but yet are we born in a container of light and love? And I know you said light and love, but I mean light and love with our family and our container. What have we chosen to co-create? And I like that. We're just elevating this. Okay. I love it. Thank you so much. Oh, Amanda. Whew.
Well, hello. And I have to be honest, I had no idea how to answer this question. So I am so grateful for Sara and Monica's amazing answers. And I think it just takes me back to, again, I talked about my trauma and being unconscious. And my first memory essentially is of the spirits who saved me and praying. And so I think it has been obvious to elevate my consciousness. I still go to, and immediately after my accident, when I did have consciousness, all I did was pray and talk to my angels, and I still do that. But that is how I kind of ground myself and find my consciousness to my, God, who I believe God or your greater power, and my spirits. And now I actually address the universe, which I've never done before this, but now I will thank the universe, by God, for certain things and just help me be grounded. And also, my main driving force has always been being a mom. While I was recovering or trying to recover, trying to figure out who I was, I knew I needed to get out of there, get everything right so I can get home and be a mother. And that has always been the most important thing to me. So coupled with my beliefs and, praying to God and the universe and my spirits, with being a mother, that is how I still stay grounded and, access my consciousness.
I love that. That really, I think a lot of people just connected with what you said.
Really?
I felt into that one. And I mean, obviously I'm this iteration, this body is a man. And my work is often to be as balanced as possible and to carry that divinity, the feminine, as much as I possibly can and honor it. And yet there are some experiences that I will never have, nor they're meant for me because I'm in this iteration. But as you say that, I could just feel into how you're solidifying or validating this desire for being close to love, for being close to this connection, for seeing where where's the camera? There it is. For seeing where the improvement or the elevation can be. And as you're saying this love, I just had this very beautiful realization of wisdom of that every woman has this general closeness to the divinity of creation of love. And so it's innate that there's a wisdom and a medicine that every woman carries. Every man does this too, it's just in a different form. But I can see as the way you're talking, this desire for having connection to children. There's a certain love connection there that is such a medicine. And as we are sitting here elevating, called to elevate and called to be more powerful or in greater manifestation for those around us, that's a very interesting motivating power. And that creates personal healing. It creates generational healing. It creates so much healing in this world. And I mean, we could go on for this, like the power of motherly love. And just that medicine alone, how do we interact with that? So that's beautiful to say that the power of motherly love is elevating the collective consciousness, right? If we could, oh my gosh, I could just, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's incredible. And it makes me think of home from the hospital, could barely walk, used a wall to walk, had a one of those shower chairs. So again, not the greatest shape, but I still, my daughter was 4. I still got on the floor and gave her a bath. You know, she went to preschool. I still got her clothes ready. I drove with I couldn't drive. You know, I drove with my husband every day to take her. Like if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would be where I'm at now. That was just so incredibly powerful.
Wow. And yeah, you're speaking to this medicine of connection. We revealed that earlier. This medicine of connection and love that transcends so much of this physical reality. It's unseen, right? Oh, I love that. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Oh, goodness. Okay. Kimmy.
Hi. First of all, I want to take this moment, in case I forget. I've known Katrina for quite a few years, and I know her story, and I know what she teaches and how she supports others. And it has been amazing to watch Amanda's face through her aha moments as Katrina talks about brain injury and all of that. And these little, like, that's consciousness. Her eyes are speaking to all of us. Like she's every time Katrina says something. And that's a collective consciousness. We are here for a purpose. It is not coincidental that these two people are on this podcast today and sharing and learning and supporting each other. Like I can see them becoming fast friends after this, because it never shows up how it is supposed to. And I'll put my pencil down. I've been taking so many notes. So I just had to say that because I've got goosebumps. It's just amazing to watch that. I facilitate many things. And when you see that aha moment, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be doing this. This is my life, right? And I don't give a shit what anybody says. This is how it's supposed to be. I know it was going to slip sooner or later, but
thank you for being human.
Yeah. You know, I am a being, I have a body, and I have a soul, and my soul is my energy. And you can see it in Amanda. It just is popping. Like, finally, someone gets it. I understand what she's saying, you know, and like, I think my awareness is that Amanda's mind is going nuts with questions for Katrina after. I don't know if that's true, but you can just feel that connection. And you know, if anything, that's what today was about, is connecting. How I elevate myself on a daily conscious. It's not easy to be conscious and living conscious. It is freaking hard work. It is so easy to be in the wash, rinse, and repeat and not think of, is this all there is? It's so much harder. Every 10 seconds, you have to make a choice to be conscious. And sometimes we forget because daily life, our jobs, or what have, be it our children, they take from us. And we have to step back and remind ourselves, no, I know I'm not in control. I have no control over what's going. I can manifest what I require to be, but the universe as a whole, I pull in what I need. And when I had my breakthrough moment, I literally, and I'll never forget this, was in my new home after my divorce. I literally I got down on my knees and put my arms up and I said, oh, I will no longer try to control all the situations. I will no longer try to control my children and show them what is best for them. I will no longer have this plan in ink or stone carved that this is the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to get myself an eraser and a pencil, and I'm going to change it along the way. I'm going to have the same destination, but it's okay if things change. It's not you get your job and you know at 55 or 65 you're done. Whew, okay, I gotta go till 65 or 55, and then I'm done. No, that line goes like this, and something happens. So then we need to erase that line, and we need to revamp the journey and take a different route. And each time we have consciousness, a new level of consciousness and being, and we elevate, we desire more. So then we say to the universe, I know I wanted that, but let's give you some more detail on that, because this is really what I want now. And that's bringing it in, right? There's a difference between spirituality and religion. Religion is following, and I'm not saying that it's a right or a wrong or a good or a bad, and you follow that, and that's great. For me, I love the Ukrainian Catholic part of my heritage. To this day, we still do Ukrainian Christmas, Ukrainian New Year's. I make sure my kids are here for supper, and we do all that stuff. That part of my religion is important to me. However, my spirituality is what I live for, because religion is not individual. You can't go out of the box because it's specific. Spirituality lets you become aware. It lets you drop your shoulders and go, okay, I like that better. You know what? That doesn't align with me. But what does align with me is A, B, C, and D. Nancy can say, you know what? I'm going to take your A and I'm going to take maybe your C, but my EFG is where it's for me. That is not a right or a wrong or a good or a bad. That's aligning with who you are and what your being is. Your being, your body, and your energy or soul, whatever you want to call those two. Everybody calls it different. Your higher power is whatever it is to you. For Sara, it's her religion, and that's her value, and that's her belief, and that's how she lives. It's not a right or a wrong if Monica's is different. The thing is, the no judgment is what it is. You can't judge somebody for what their beliefs are. It don't align with you. And your best friend that you've known forever in your life can kind of like your A and B and Nancy's EFG, but that doesn't mean it's wrong or it's right. And I was always taught that in religion. I went to a Catholic school most of my life, but it was still segregated, because if you were Roman Catholic, you went to church Saturday nights. That's, I don't know about that, because Sunday morning at 9, you better be in there and not understand a word they're saying because it's all in Ukrainian. Okay, sure. Okay. So you sit there for an hour and you go, okay, that was great. Didn't understand a word that guy said, but I showed up and I had my best dress on, so I'm good. Right? No. What journey is that? What journey is that to be disciplined to sit there and kneel 20 times in a service? That's what are you learning?
Yeah.
Okay. So your individuality and your spirituality, that is unique to you, just like our fingerprints are unique. Now, think about it. If we had teach our children right from the beginning what intuition is, and that they're a unique individual. And just because you've had 10 kids, they're not all going to be the same values or core beliefs, because each thing affects them differently in that family. I have a son and a daughter. I raise them the same way, but they are not the same. They are not the same. And that's their birthright. That's their, it's a miracle of how they evolve and blossom into different things with the same experiences. So when you have children that are little in school, and Nancy, you might get this because you are a principal. So when you have all these little minds that don't know about intuition, and that their compass is their tummy and their guidance system, and someone's telling them, nope, that's not how you should feel. Nope, that's wrong. You don't feel that way. We are screwing up our generations coming, because they're being shamed and condemned for feeling and having their own value system and their own belief system. Nothing's going to align with them. We've looped those kids around so tight they don't have a clue what's going on.
I really like it. Yeah, I love what you're saying, Kimmy. And I just wrote down that consciousness is a navigation tool.
Oh, absolutely.
And I love that. And I like how you're bringing in like how we consciously choose the path that allows us to experience life for our greatest and highest good, for like what aligns with us, right? And then maybe that is I'm here, and these scriptures or guides of ways of being are very beneficial to me, right? And then it's interesting how you're kind of illuminating that your life assignment is tied to what you elevate in your life. Like as you're experiencing things, is this what I'm here to elevate in a way? And we can see that how there's many different iterations of groups as they reinvent themselves, and then they kind of and it's interesting, yeah, because a lot of that happens, and it is a way of like navigating the world. I love that. Beautiful.
You know, my children, like I said, I have a boy and a girl, so I raise them the same. They are so close to one another. If you knew those kids, it just blows my mind how close they are. But last May, I decided, you know what? They're adults, they're working full time. If they're going to live here, they're going to also contribute and pay rent and learn life lessons. And their father lives across town in our little town of 900. And they looked at me like I had two heads, because I wanted to give them this lesson, right? And teach them how to be responsible, and that this is how life is after high school, kind of thing. And they decided to move out and go live with their dad, because that's not something not something that aligned with them. And it was very hard for me to become an empty nester like that. I cried, I had deep depression, and I mean, it was so hard. But then again, I was getting into the control thing. I need to teach them this lesson. I need to do this for them. I need to do this, because they chose me and my ex-husband as their parents. They chose me. I had to sit back and go, oh, you're doing it again. Stop controlling. They chose this. I am their choice. So remember that, because they chose you, Mom. Okay, I'm gonna get a little teary now. But they chose me. So now I have to let go and know and believe and trust that the universe and the people the universe brings into their lives now is what is required on their journey. My journey, I'm still their mom. I'll always be their mom, but their journey now is blossoming, and they're getting the people that they're calling in for. And if we don't teach kids that early, I think it's such a disservice to have to fix them later or help them later. If we do it now and they have all the tools in their toolbox, whoa! What, can you imagine that conscious world we would have all over the world? Like every night, I send healing to every being, everything, and every creation of life coming in, whether that's somebody working on a book or a new project. Every night I send that out to every being and thing in the world. And I send my conscious collectiveness to them to think, oh, let's make it. Let's do this together.
I love it. It's beautiful. Collective upgrades and like what do we do as a collective, and how can we, just make those decisions and prepare ourselves. Yeah, I like that. It's beautiful. It helps us to elevate. Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, Katrina. Yes.
Well, it's very interesting when I think about this, because at all of the extreme lows and brokenness along my life, I have been blessed by a unique gift that came in at that time period. So, for example, in one of the homes that I loved, where my family was falling apart in extreme brokenness, this home had a beautiful spirit that was living in it, that was there often to pick me up in those broken pieces and give me some wisdom. And many times when I would be uprooted to different locations and feel that brokenness, I was blessed by the power of beautiful neighbors that would take me in and give me that love that I couldn't have in the location where I was growing up. And the community that surrounded me also took me in to church, which was a hard thing for me, because as my family continued to break apart in the different fragmentations, my parents also changed churches all the time. So religion was always different. And what I was told to do, go left or go right, or everything was becoming to the point where I became extremely confused. So the only truth that I knew myself was to connect with God through nature. And what I used to do as a kid, teen, and even today as an adult is I would go out in the woods and I would find a little deer bed, and I would sit in the deer bed, and I would bring my Bible with me sometimes, and I would sit in that deer bed and I would say to myself, God loved and created this amazing creature the same way that he loves and created me. And I would sit there in those healing areas for myself at all levels of my age, and be there to connect with nature, seeing the seasons change, just as all the seasons changed in my own life journey, and watching how everything died and was recreated the same way that every brokenness along my journey in my childhood, in my adult, and also more importantly, was when I was working in geriatric and palliative care and sitting beside thousands of people as their cognition dissolved away and they crossed over. Being there with them at these important points of transition was also important for me. And when I had my own situations of lack of consciousness because of severe complications with seizures, I would get amazing messages at these times that it's okay to be broken, and it's also okay to press a reset button and start a new positive pivot in a different direction. And whether I was a child making those decisions, or whether I was a teen because of having complications of a teenage pregnancy from a rape, or whatever the complications were that came along in my life, I was the person who had the ability to press that reset, embrace all of the growth and life and beauty within nature, and absorb that in myself and transfer that love out to everyone I could touch. And I continue to do that today, embracing the amazing transitional power of the nature around you. Embrace, like I even think back to stories of the bombing in the US, and how, you know, when the major bombing took place, the building crashed, one tree survived, one special tree that was broken to the point where there was not one leaf left on this tree that was burnt and damaged by the bomb. But at the same time, they chose not to cut this broken, useless little piece of tree down, because it became a symbol of hope. for the people that lost so many family members. And then within that next year, and as things transitioned, and you look back at Oklahoma where these bombs took place, that tree now is the most beautiful tree you would even want to paint. And the beauty and desire of that tree, although it was broken, God and our ability to connect with nature brings healing in every different transition of the seasons. And all of us are in a different season of our life. And if you don't like it, just wait. It'll pivot to something different.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
that's so good. I love it. You're speaking a lot of wisdom from the West of understanding how to die, how to live in the next new moment. And I love your story is a lot about utilizing compassion as an elevating tool. I love that. Oh, yes, it's beautiful. Okay, Nancy.
Yeah. Wow, Katrina, I really, really resonated with that. The original question was, how do you connect with your consciousness? And Monica said a couple things too, in terms of nothing really bad or good, but like that learning. And I think when I'm struggling, and it's funny because, I just went through a really difficult time with my son and his health, and it was hard to remind myself that this is all part of our journey. This is all part of our learning and of our own soul's evolution. And sometimes for me, it's about going back to that place of gratitude, right? Which can be really hard when you're being faced with something that's super crappy. It's really hard to find that nugget of gratitude, but in listening to all of your stories, it seems to be in that hindsight that we're able to find that gratitude. When I look back on my life, it was in the most challenging times that I grew the most. And it's in that hindsight that we're able to see that beauty. It's hard for us to see it in the moment. So in some of the really difficult times in my life, I sort of subconsciously created a little mantra that now has become a conscious mantra, where I'd say something like, 6 months from now, this will be easier. A year from now, I'll start to understand. And 5 years from now, this will be a memory. And it helps me to recognize the sense of timelessness, that if we look at our lives, right, and our own timeline, right, I can't do it in my little window here, but our timeline, is this big kind of thing. And within that timeline, even the biggest, most traumatic events are a blip in our timeline, right? And then when you look at the soul level timeline, it's an even tinier blip in that timeline. So by putting it into perspective that these are all moments of learning for which we can be grateful, some can help us kind of break out of the heaviness of some of those situations and allow ourselves to kind of transcend into that bigger piece of consciousness of recognizing that in the big timeline of things, this really super crappy situation is a blip. And in a future time, if you can put yourself into that future time, this is something I learned from. And so if you can put yourself into that perspective of finding those beautiful, positive learning moments, even in the worst situations, can really, help elevate that consciousness. There's sort of two thoughts I had. One thing based on what Katrina was saying is the other day, it was about a month ago, there was a lot of really crappy things going on in my life, especially with different things with my kids. And I was struggling, and I went for a walk because just like Katrina, my place is nature. I go find myself some trees and I'm back to feeling grounded again. And I was watching the sunset, and I was like, wow, it's so beautiful. And I thought, but it's actually an ending of something. It's an ending of a day. And yet it was so beautiful. And I thought, if we could somehow transcend these endings and these griefs and these losses into the idea of a sunset, and find that beauty in that moment, even though it's an ending of a day. If we could find that beauty in the moment, then that can help us transcend that challenge, that difficult time, and give us strength, which is hard. I mean, it's easy for me to say, harder to do at the time. But when you put yourself into that perspective, it kind of gives you that bigger sense of consciousness. So for me, when I need to try and elevate my consciousness and be that connected, I become incredibly grateful for whatever learning I'm having at this moment. When I do readings for people, that's the biggest thing that comes out, is this gratitude for what's going on and what has happened, especially the things that, oh, well, because of this, I learned this. So kind of reframing it in that perspective of gratitude. The other thing is recognizing the timeline, that in a lifetime or a soul lifetime, even the most major traumatic events are a blip in that timeline, a bit of learning. And if we can reframe that by finding that beauty in terms of how we are growing and elevating our own consciousness for that collective consciousness to which we are all a part of, we're all here today. We can tap into that collective consciousness whenever we need the wisdom. Then I have access to all of your wisdom. I have access to source wisdom whenever I need it. And if we can kind of keep that perspective of gratitude, and then we're starting to acknowledge that, like Monica said, there's learning and transcendence in challenging times and in difficult times, as well as in the ordinary times. Those sunsets where like, hey, I'm just out on a walk and look at that beautiful tree. There's that transcendence. So it's about gratitude and understanding the timeline of our own lifetime and soul evolution.
Oh, I love it. I'm remembering the sunset yesterday. I got to be able to witness it, and it was just beautiful. It's yeah. There are those moments that we get to wake up to the beauty in the moment of the moment, and I really am getting this sense of medicine of permission, giving ourselves permission to move on, to understand that there is a next new moment. Giving ourselves permission is a lot of what I'm hearing you say.
And if I can add to that, and a few of you have touched on this, is that we've come here to learn something. Our souls are evolving. We have chosen the parents we have. We have chosen the life we have, with all of its challenges, in order to evolve, right? In order to grow, so that we can teach, so that we can, help contribute, to help elevate all of human consciousness. And so, if we recognize that there is a bigger plan in place, of which we had some conscious choice, even if we don't recognize that conscious choice right now, we had that conscious choice. We chose some of the really crappy things in our lives to come, so that we can learn, so that we can grow. And if you do that, then you feel less like a victim and less like, this is all the crap that's happened to me. And it becomes, what am I learning from this? What is my growth from this? And it turns the power from giving that power away to internalizing that power, which then makes you more powerful, right? And it's not easy to do. There have been many situations in my life where I'm like, this is unfair. Why is this happening to me? And, but it's that gentle reframing and that gentle, transformation where it's like, yeah, but this is my learning. This is what I chose. And like I said, in hindsight, it's much easier to see the learning when you're looking back on the situation than when you're in it. So by trying to put yourself into that future timeline, looking back at the current timeline and going, oh, okay, these are some of the things I can maybe learn from this. Difficult to do, I'm absolutely not trying to say just make yourself happy,
Right.
I'm not
yeah,
saying.
I mean, it's
it's reframing, right?
Yeah, it's reframing. It's giving yourself permission, like you're saying, because it's sometimes we don't realize that, oh yeah, in this, at this time it'll be this, at this time it'll be this, instead of choosing to stay in it for, we're going to do that no matter what, for as long as we need to. But it's beautiful. I love it. Oh, this is beautiful. Okay, Christian, let's get you in.
So the tools that I use to elevate that awareness, to elevate that consciousness, are pretty simple. We've learned this from the time we were kids. It's self-healing. Sara really touched on the core principle of that. That's that inner core. That's really the self-love. Monica touched on the shadow aspect of ourselves. Part of that is accepting the dark things that we have done, processing that and being able to release that. Amanda with balancing the masculine and feminine energies. That is huge. That blending of those polarities within us, that is the spiritual alchemy that each of one of us has to go through and ascend that middle pillar on the tree of life. So when you ask me, what do? I meditate, but I also pray. And most people in our society don't understand the difference between praying and meditating. And prayer is speaking what you want from the cosmos. And meditating is listening for the answer as to what to do to get it. The other thing that I practice besides meditation and prayer is working with crystals, meditating with the crystals, using things of the earth, sound bowls, frequency healing. One of the best things you can do to elevate your consciousness and your awareness is always think elevated thoughts. And if you are ever going through a tough time, you just reflect back on a happy memory and you relive that happy memory. And once you're in that elevated state of emotion, then you can move forward and maneuver around however you choose to maneuver. So it's those things that I practice, along with the gratitude list. Every morning, the second I open up my eyes, before I even realize I'm awake, I've programmed myself to start doing the gratitude list. What are 10 things that I'm grateful for today, right now? I just opened my eyes, 10 new things each and every single day. Before I go to bed, I say thank you for those 10 things being in my life. So the gratitude, the addressing your shadow self, the knowing that you have a purpose and finding out what that is huge. And that's really what it comes down to is what are you currently doing to raise your awareness, your consciousness? So with all that combined, I really like to focus on positive thoughts. I like to do things that connect me to that source energy. And it's really about being mindful of your thoughts. Controlling your thoughts is the best way to elevate your consciousness. Because when you are vibing low or praying out of hope, you're not going to get what you're hoping for.
You're vibrating at that lower frequency because that's what you're feeling.
That's what you're putting out. You're a radio, and if you're in that lower vibrational state, asking for this situation to pass, it almost seems like it lasts longer. But the second you're able to raise your frequency, raise your vibration, think of a happy memory and connect your heart to your brain, that brain sync to your heart and your brain, and you're able to elevate both, things almost instantly change and transcend into the next stage. It seems like you move away from that difficult situation that much faster. So what I practice is all that meditation, prayer, elevated thoughts. I really focus on right now. I try to stay in the moment as much as I possibly can. Sometimes I'm so much in the moment that I forget what day it is. Even though I got my handy, even though I spend a lot of time on my cell phone, I'm like, what day is it? I ask my wife like 5 times a day, wait, today is Friday, Saturday, because I'm so just in my own little bubble right here, right now. So to remain in the moment is also a key tool that I use, as well as all the different types of energy work that you can possibly do. But it really does come down to the core self-love, and practicing that self-preservation, practicing that because you can't expect the love from the universe until you have that for yourself, right? You can't expect to be loved and feel loved if you can't even love yourself. So I think that is the most important thing that you can start practicing to raise your consciousness and your vibration, is that self-love and gratitude, because gratitude is the language of the universe. And when you start speaking it, you literally transcend barriers almost instantly, because you are now matching the vibration of what it is you're trying to attract. And a lot of people just don't get that. A lot of people are like, why am I stuck here? And it's like, well, where's your mind at? Where is your mind stuck at? And until you release that blockage, you're going to stay there. So that's it for me. That's pretty much what I use.
I love it. This is you're speaking to an aspect of this journey that is you're talking about conscious embodiment. How do I take the tools that we've created to be a certain way, right? I'm existing as a thing. And you're talking about having this heart and mind coherence where your heart is feeling the same thing that your mind is exuding, right? And so they create this vortex of energy that modifies the reality that we are experiencing as you're speaking, and using those tools to bring you there. So yes, conscious embodiment of choice of what you're doing, how you're navigating. This is beautiful. Now, this was one question that we've basically asked and gone through, is how to elevate consciousness. And I think it's beautiful because it needed so much explanation, and there's so much wisdom within that knowledge that we can all ground in as wisdom. And whoever's watching this is going to take everything that we've said and kind of run with this, because the conversation of consciousness, as we kind of illuminated just from the beginning of our stories, is way beyond just one question, defining it with one question, right? I can see that the rest of the episodes are going to be touching on consciousness a little bit. So from this point, I just want to kind of say, like, thank you for showing up into this conversation. Thank you for expanding the conversation. Thank you for not being the end of this conversation. Thank you for igniting and bringing that life and fire within us of what is our own to do within this conversation of consciousness. I love it. I'm going to turn it over to Julie. Thank you so much, Julie. This is great. Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Matthew. I'd like to thank everybody. This has just been a fabulous conversation. Just building on this, with Matthew, we constructed this over the last year, and I think we constructed this, the process of these webinars correctly. So, and talking about consciousness on our fourth webinar. So the next step is, what is life purpose? So March 5th. So we're going to do that, but we're going to close now. We've got some things to do today, and I just want to have everyone go through and provide their information on how people can get a hold of you. And if you have any classes, specials that you want to share with our audience, it'd be great. Sarah or Matthew, do you have something?
The only thing that's coming up is this podcast. The next one you've illuminated. So I just appreciate everybody showing up to that. Thank you.
Thank you both, Matthew and Julie, for organizing this. I enjoyed it. For me, if anybody would like to contact me, the best way is to go to my website, saraim.com, SARAIM.com, and you can get my free gift. I have a free gift about a guide, instruction guide to live a healthy lifestyle. So it's a PDF format. It's all free, and you get 30-minute consultation as well. And I also have a live show, a weekly live show that I feature people that have amazing story. You can find it on Facebook. It's called A Thriving Conversation. It's on Facebook, A Thriving Conversation group. Just you can also reach out through my website. Just reach out to me to be my guest. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Well, at first, before I give my information, I just have some points regarding that. Some of the things that we have talked, like Katrina, when we will remove, I just put these notes. Then we remove, or it was Kim, I believe so. When we remove the control of wanting to control others, that's actually when we become actually real free. We can't be free. We want to control others because we get controlled by whatever we want to control. And also, I believe Nancy, she said, oh, no one can. It was, I believe, it was Nancy. Then no one can control. No one can. We don't grow from our learning from our success. We learn it in reality from the pain. Unfortunately, this is how we normally human beings we learn. It is not from our success stories; it's actually from our pain stories. I just wanted to add those points in there. And yes, my name is Monica Ramirez slash a warrior of love. www, of course, Monica Ramirez warrior of love.com. That's my website, or you can email me at Monica Ramirez warrior of love at gmail.com. And I do work with people one-on-one right now. I'm not having groups sessions in this moment. I was doing that, but my mother died in December, so I'm taking a break of groups right now. I'm just doing a one-on-one coaching in the moment. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Thank you.
inviting me, Julie and Matthew. Thank you for knowing these amazing people, and thank you for all these conversations. They're really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Amanda, how are you doing there?
Good. I am good. First, Julie and Matthew, thank you so much. This was such an incredible experience, and you guys have really outdone yourself with this whole group. And everybody on this panel, your stories have been very incredible. So thank you for sharing. If you want to get a hold of me, my name is my website, amandarumore.com. And that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Say hi if you ever want to talk. I am happy to do it. And if you ever need a publicist, I'm definitely your girl. That's it.
Thank you, Amanda. Kimmy.
Hello. I just want to say to the universe, wow, you knew exactly what you were doing today to collide all of this together. And like you could just feel the sparks going off because the energy is just so overwhelming. And, I've been reading the comments along the side and wow, and we all have a contribution. And, no one is less than or greater than us. We don't know their struggles. We don't know their desires. We don't know their hangups. We're all the same. And that's where the non-judgment comes in for me for consciousness. My dad could come to me after all of this time and say, can you help me with what you do? And I would say, yes, I can, because everybody is deserving. And to me, my gifts are to be shared, not to be hoarded or decided, oh, no, not helping you because you don't deserve it. It's none of that. Do I have to break bread with him? Oh, hell no. That ain't going to happen. But will I assist him and support him and the next person along the way? I will. Best way to get a hold of me is kimmyenergy.com. That's me. I am also on Facebook, Instagram, and on LinkedIn under Kimmy Energy, the potency of choice.
Fabulous, Kimmy. Thank you. Katrina.
Hello, everyone. And just as everyone has said, amazing blessings to be able to cross paths with each of you. And when it comes to reaching out and really touching and linking with each other, I just lift up the opportunity for everyone to connect and really share not only the tools in your toolbox, but the blessings that we can all offer each other. And to get in touch with me, you can email me at katrina@healthybrain.ca or go to my website, Healthy Brain, www.healthybrain.ca. And you'll also find me on Facebook as well at Katrina Breau. And if you just ever feel like you want to make a phone call and chat by phone, you can do that as well. 780-686-7949. And blessings to you all.
Thank you so much, Katrina. Nancy.
Hi, I actually changed my name in the thing to this is my business name is Nancy Inspired. And I'm Nancy Inspired on all the platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of the things. And my website is www.nancyinspired.com. And I do remote readings for people. Again, like I said, I call it soul telepathy, where I help you to hear what your own soul's trying to tell you in order to elevate to the next step. It's always what's the most relevant at this moment in time. So I have a few clients that I do, every 6-8 months, and it's completely different. I do tea leaf readings. So my tea leaf readings are not divination. They're part of the soul telepathy. So we talk about what's going on. I use the chakras as a map in terms of what's happening in the different areas of your life. If I'm doing it remotely, I drink the tea for you and teacup. And then the images come, and usually they're incredibly beautiful metaphors for what we've already talked about in terms of, so on my Instagram and on my Facebook, I sometimes create images of some of the leaves that have come up, and then talk about what they mean. And so lots of times they're kind of universal truths that we need. I do collective readings each week. And for a number of people, I do what I call weekly wisdom. And so they let me know that they want to have a weekly wisdom. And then when I'm doing the collective reading for the week, I tap in for that person and I'm like, okay, what's the wisdom for the week for that person? And the feedback I get is that it's usually really, really, really relevant and poignant. I also do public speaking and inspirational speaking. And so if you're having an event, I also do collective readings for groups. So if you have a group of people, I tap into the group and I channel, I'm a channel, right? So I channel you, I channel your soul. So when it's a group, I channel the collective and what is the most relevant information for this group of people. And it's been very powerful. I really enjoy it because I find I get wisdom as I'm channeling the wisdom. It's like, oh, I needed to hear that too. And so, yeah, it's very powerful work and I'm really excited. So yeah, Nancy Inspired. Lots of ways to contact me, Nancy Inspired on all the platforms. So it was such a gift to be here. Thank you so much, everybody that was on here. I fully intend to connect with each of you. And thank you, Matthew and Julie, for doing this. And you've inspired me to maybe take some next steps in terms of my own podcasting, my own creating my own live shows perhaps or something, because this has really inspired me in the wisdom that's coming out from everybody. So yes, thank you. And thank you to everyone that's listening and watching either live or in the future. What a beautiful world we live in that we can share this kind of information at the click of a button. So thank you for putting it all together.
Thank you, Nancy, very much. Christian, halfway around the world.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one that's not in the U.S. But I will be back there within. Me and my wife are talking about 2 years. Within 2 years, we'll be back in California. Yep, I miss LA, but I miss Northern California. I miss the Temecula, the high desert. If anybody is struggling with understanding their gifts or how to process them, how to tap into their own personal energy, how to transcend trauma, overcome addiction, or recover from a devastating rock bottom, what you can do is you can actually find me at chreikihealing.com. All my contact information is on my website. You can find me on Instagram, same thing, chreikihealing.com, TikTok, Pinterest. I'm all over the place. Just look for CH Reiki Healing and you will find me. I don't hide. Facebook page is the same, chreikihealing.com. And yeah, so I'm always available. I'm always there for anybody that needs guidance, motivation, inspiration. I'm there for you. If you need tarot readings, if you need any kind of wisdom or information, I am a plethora, and I freely dispense a lot of it. But for the spiritual coaching, just inquire about pricing and all that. It's all there on my website. So it was a pleasure connecting with everybody here. Your stories are amazing, very inspirational. That we've all been able to recover and heal ourselves, so that we can continue to share our gifts with the rest of the world, no matter where they be. So, namaste to everybody. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, this has been beautiful. I do want to say, yeah, thank you for everybody for doing your work. We're showing up. We're doing it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to expand their work. Thank you, everybody who's done their work and is just watching and wanting to contribute and spread. Thank you. We're all showing up. It's flipping awesome. Love it. Julie, when is our next episode again?
It is March 5th, and it's What the Bleep is Life Purpose.
Yay.
So,
Beautiful. Oh,
and
beautiful.
I just want to thank everybody here. You've had fabulous stories, and this is one I will probably have to go watch a few times over and over, you know. So thank you. This is just out there in the universe for others to connect with, and I'm grateful for that. And I want to thank all our viewers and our future listeners to this, and Matthew for showing up, being my co-host.
Thank you, Julie. I love that, co-creating, like we just said, coming to consciousness. What is ours to do? Our life assignments, all these things. I'm so happy that we all shown up in this space. I can't wait for our next episode, because again, every single time we're just, what the heck, what the bleep spirituality. We're all coming to this beautiful consensus and gaining knowledge, or turning knowledge into wisdom. And yeah, this is just such a beautiful life assignment right now. So thank you, everybody, for showing up one more time. Go about your day and spread your light, spread your wisdom, work your process. Of course, reach out to all of these beautiful people when you are called, and we will see you next time. Thank you much.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Namaste. Bye, everybody.